Okay, to Manchester United now, we've got a few updates to bring you. The club have held initial discussions with Burnley over a deal for midfielder Sander Berge. Now, it's understood that he wants to make the move to Old Trafford. They are also looking at Monaco midfielder Youssef Fofana. They've also still got interest in Manuel Ugarte. Busy. All these deals, though, depend on players leaving. It's that classic transfers domino effect, isn't it? Okay, let's take a little look then at these options that they've got. We'll start with Ugarte. What do you make of this flex? Yeah, I think it's a profile of player that is massively needed in Manchester United's midfield. I think he brings dynamism, he'll bring athleticism, he likes to get after people and win the ball back as quickly as possible. He's been playing in the Copa America with Uruguay and played fantastically well, and we got to showcase some of his skills. I think for Manchester United now in midfield, with the rebuild of it, it's about, in my opinion, building it around Kobbie Mainoo. Of course, Bruno is the captain, of course, Bruno has been there for a while, but if we're talking about the future of the Manchester United midfield, in my opinion, I think we need the perfect partner next to Kobbie Mainoo. That person needs to have great mobility, they need to be able to want to win duels and cover a lot of ground. Manchester United midfield has been so open and so exposed and players left on islands. We saw it many times last year, and Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football and different times was highlighting that quite well, and Man United really need to fix that. So, Manuel Ugarte is somebody I think fits that profile of helping Kobbie Mainoo, because Kobbie can't do it all, Bruno can't do it all, and changing that midfield. I think the biggest thing for United in that midfield area is physicality. I think they're a bit of a soft-toucher midfield. Obviously, Ten Hag's strategy or tactic sometimes is to empty the midfield out. I don't know if he's going to continue to do that this season. We were speaking off air, and he said he has been doing it a little bit during pre-season as well. But I think you need someone then who can cover ground, and the problem that United have had is they empty the midfield and they're asking Casemiro to do 40, 50-yard sprints. That's never been his game. Ugarte prefers doing that. He wants to get around, and Tim Vickery was on the show yesterday, and he basically said he's a little bit like baby Javier Mascherano. Someone who wants to get around, makes tackles, wants to be aggressive, wants to get in the face of the opposition. I think you've lost that bite a little bit, and he probably brings that in. Okay, and then what about Mazraoui and De Ligt? Yeah, it's looking like potentially a double deal. Both players have reportedly agreed personal terms, and it felt like, especially with De Ligt, it felt like this was a fairly quick and easy deal to do. But it feels like Manchester United are waiting for dominoes to fall. We know that Manchester United are in a situation financially where they do need to sell players in order to buy, and I think that's what's holding these two prospective deals up. I mean, De Ligt, I think, is 24 years of age and has got a wealth of experience. And I think has been sort of harshly labeled as sort of maybe injury-prone or not quite up to it. I think there's a bit of a myth that he's gone to Bayern Munich and Eric Dier plays instead of him. It's simply just not true. He plays with him. It's actually with Upamecano, who's been out of the team, and Kim Min-jae, who's been struggling. So, Manchester United needing reinforcements at central half, needing quality. It is another player that Erik ten Hag has history with. I was just about to say that, which seems to keep happening. But actually in this case, I mean, Ineos and the guys who made the decision there have sort of opted for Leny Yoro and gone for that type of midfielder, and Erik ten Hag still has transfer veto. He still has power. There's another misconception that Erik ten Hag's in the job and being kept on and he has no say. Just not true, and I think this shows us that. And the same with Mazraoui, history with Erik ten Hag. Ten Hag's phone book. Left backs, right backs. Exactly. But he reportedly wants to come to Manchester United, and again, we're hearing that Aaron Wan-Bissaka's move is maybe stalling to West Ham or maybe into Milan. But until that domino falls, then Mazraoui's deal is on ice. But you can clearly see what Manchester United's intention is, and I think those deals are just waiting to happen. We've heard from Florian Plettenberg quite a lot, who's very close to the situation at Bayern Munich, and he's explained it as just that. These deals are pretty much there, but Manchester United are waiting for outgoings. What about Jarrad Branthwaite? Would you want to see him? Manchester United put in 2 bids for Jarrad Branthwaite, but Everton are entitled to demand in excess of £60–70 million, as that's how much they value him, and Ineos and Manchester United clearly wanted him, but don't feel they should be paying that sort of price for Jarrad Branthwaite just yet. He's had a fantastic season in the Premier League. He's played in a PSV and he's been fantastic, but I think it's right for Manchester United to change their perception in the market. That has to happen. Ineos has a big job for Ineos to change the perception of Manchester United and say we're not going to pay over the odds for players that we don't believe are worth that valuation. Here's 2 bids. If you don't like it, no problem. We'll go a different direction, and that's what they did in terms of Leny Yoro. Never say never in football. Later on in the window, maybe they will go back in for Jarrad Branthwaite. I think he's a good player. I think he's great with both feet. He wants to initiate duels. He wants to win headers, and he wants to be on the front foot. I like him as a player. I think he can definitely add something to Manchester United, but for 60 to 70 million pounds, Manchester United have been there in the past with the likes of Harry Maguire. They've been there in the past with the likes of Antony, where sometimes players don't live up to that valuation, and I think it's smart to not enter into that again. I think the key thing that Nolan said there is changing the perception. At the moment, I think Manchester United enter the market for a player. You often hear he's now £95 million, and that's because Manchester United have previously paid over the odds. They've put themselves in situations where we spoke about Casemiro off-air and said overpaid and put him on a long contract, didn't know anything about his age, and I think a lot of players will also be going. I don't mind going there because from PS7 80 million, and it's a good deal for me and the wage is up, so I think it's a nice place for United to be where they're sort of going, okay, we won't have you, we'll have the plan B, which has never been the case. Certainly not in recent times. You haven't gone, we don't want the plan A, we'll just take a plan B and we'll make it work. Absolutely. The last one I wanted to ask about was Monaco's Youssef Fofana. What do you make of that? Again, we're talking about the profile of the type of player, of what's needed in the midfield. He ticks that box and he's only got a year left on his contract as well, so you're going in for a player who's very attainable. That's always a plus, and price-wise wouldn't be in the realms of the 60 to 70 million pounds that's been quoted for Manuel Ugarte. So it's another move that potentially makes sense for Manchester United in where they want to go in rebranding this midfield.